Welcome back. So in our last explainer, we saw that even selfless action can still create bondage if our understanding isn't complete. Well, now Krishna is about to drop one of the most famous and frankly confusing statements in the entire Gita. Let's get into it.
Okay, so reading that, it sounds like a riddle, right? It feels profound, but what does it even mean? How can you possibly see action in someone who is doing nothing, or see inaction when someone is in the middle of a flurry of activity? That is the exact puzzle we're going to piece together today. And here's the first big clue. This is not some mystical, far-out idea. Not at all. In Chapter 4, Krishna is getting super precise. He's describing a very specific mental shift, drawing a line in the sand between the movement of our body and the bondage of our ego. So, why does this statement trip so many people up? Honestly, it's because we're all looking at the wrong thing. We're confusing what our body is doing with what our ego is doing.
This slide really lays it all out. The common view is simple. Action is moving, inaction is sitting still. Easy. But the Gita just flips the whole table. It says, no, real action is the ego's inner voice screaming, I am doing this is my work. And real inaction, that's the inner freedom from that very voice. It's a total perspective shift from the physical to the psychological.
All right, let's break down the first half of that paradox. Seeing inaction in action. This describes an incredible state of freedom that you can access right in the middle of your most hectic day.
So what we're talking about here is being completely engaged. You're working, you're focused, you're giving it your all, but inside, you're totally free. You're free from that need to own the results, to claim authorship. So what does that inner state actually feel like? So on the outside, everything looks totally normal. The body is busy, the mind is sharp, you're putting in the work. But that but you see on the screen, that's the whole game. Internally, there is no voice claiming the credit. There's no deep-seated anxiety about how it's all going to turn out. And, most importantly, your identity, your self-worth, isn't on the line.
And that is the absolute key. When that little voice, that sense of I am the doer, goes quiet, action just flows through you. It doesn't stick. It doesn't create psychological baggage or residue. That is inaction at the only level that truly matters.
Okay, now let's flip the coin. Let's look at the other side of this paradox, seeing action in inaction. This is the one Krishna warns us about. He says this is a really dangerous kind of self-deception.
You know this person. They might look calm on the outside. Maybe they've withdrawn from the world. Maybe they're just sitting on the couch. Physically, they're still. But inside, their mind is a whirlwind, totally consumed by desires, fears, judgments, and constant calculations. That is mental action, and it is absolutely exhausting.
So externally, they might look passive. They might even say they've renounced all the drama of the world. But internally, it's the total opposite. Desire is still running wild, fear is pulling the strings, and the ego is working overtime. The body might be still, but the mind is running a marathon of binding action.
You see, the body might be at a standstill, but the mind is completely entangled in action that creates bondage. And Krishna's really clear here. This is not freedom. It's not spirituality. It's just hidden action, a form of self-deception.
So we've got these two opposite-looking states. One person is busy, the other is still, but their inner realities are completely reversed. So what's the one thing that separates them? What's the dividing line?
It all comes down to one thing: knowledge. Inner clarity. Look at this table. Without understanding, our actions bind us, and our stillness is just a form of hiding. But with understanding, that very same action loses its power to bind us, and that same stillness transforms into real freedom. The outer behavior could be identical. The inner understanding changes everything.
And this is basically Krishna's mic drop moment. You simply cannot tell how free someone is by looking at them. It has nothing to do with their lifestyle, their job, or how busy they are. The real freedom is entirely internal. And that brings this ancient teaching crashing right into our modern lives.
I mean, think about it. This idea has never been more relevant. We live in a world that's obsessed with hustle culture on one side and quiet quitting on the other. This teaching gives us a totally new way to look at our own lives. Are we busy but free? Or are we still but totally bound?
So the big takeaway is that freedom isn't about changing your lifestyle. It's not about quitting your job or moving to the mountains. It's about inner authorship. Who, inside your own head, is claiming ownership of what you do?
Is it your calm, quiet center, or is it your needy, anxious ego?
And this is where it gets really personal. Let's ask ourselves, and be honest, do you need other people to praise your work for it to feel valuable? Does the final outcome, whether it's a success or failure, directly impact your sense of self-worth? When you fail, do you feel like you are a failure?
The answers to those questions tell you everything, don't they? If you answered yes, it's a sign that the ego is still in the driver's seat and your actions are still binding you. But if you answered no, then you're starting to taste real freedom. You're experiencing action that flows through you without leaving that sticky psychological residue.
So to wrap it all up, what Chapter 4 is doing is just demolishing our old ideas about freedom. Freedom is not about running away from responsibility. It's not just about slowing down or doing less. Real freedom is the ability to act fully, to engage completely, without the ego hijacking the experience.
And in our next explainer, we're going to build on this. We'll decode how all these ideas, sacrifice, knowledge, and action come together, and we'll explore the incredible concept of how true wisdom actually burns through old karma instead of creating new layers of it.
This is Decoded Gita Wisdom. We decode, not preach. Thanks for joining us.